Well, I learned a few things. Like I, I had forgotten or didn't even know that that hydrant down by the deck had 110-volt electricity supplied. And I guess that's because the people who, looked after the deck, which was mostly the private club people, later in my life, uh, I guess I probably used that hydrant, but I don't remember all the details of what I did there and when. In any event, going over that today, I thought, yeah, well, of course, they would have, one, had problems with other people, besides myself, wrestling with the freezing problem down there at that. There was only the one hydrant on the property that was that way. It didn't drain automatically. But whatever, somebody figured that out. It really had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
At least I don't remember that.
Yeah. No,
A lot of things I don't remember.
Had a lot of have had a lot of interest in that video of checking out the deck. That's something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of fond memories of the deck. So.
Oh, wow, that's neat.
Yeah. All right, you ready to continue on and look at some pictures?
Sure.
All right, let me get the pictures pulled up here. What I'm going to do tonight, starting off wise, is I went back and I was working on some of the pictures that you and I were talking about that they weren't inverted correctly.
Yeah,
so
that's correct.
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm not sure of that. No, it's not.
No, to me, I think that one's incorrect.
It is.
That one's incorrect. Now this is what a correct.
That is correct.
Yeah. So this would be Murray's Run.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Okay.
the three sets of snow fence were on the west side of Murray's Run there, and the gaps I used to go through those with the Thiokol.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the one that I originally had inverted, and then as I started looking at it and going back and doing the slides over again, it's like, okay, because that's the knob should be.
Yeah. They're nice, clear images, eh?
Yeah. No, very nice.
I know those hills in the background, almost every one of them.
So obviously, the other thing when I was looking at this picture, this had to be fairly early because obviously there was no cable tow or ski run on the knob yet.
Well, there could have been. That clearing going up the south or the north side of the knob is revealing to me. You could not necessarily see. Now I'm going to call it the racing trail, where they did have downhill races, as I recall, down that, super steep at the top. Boy, you had to be a good skier to not have to, slow yourself down when you got down there.
Yeah.
But that was designed, I'll claim, designer rights for that, but that was our downhill trail. It was very short, but it was steep and it was a real challenge for a downhill skier.
Right. Yeah, no, I thought that was this was a really nice picture. So was this what about this over here on the far left? Is this the caribou?
Yeah, well, no, the caribou is not in that image. I'm not sure what you're running back and forth along there, but
so here's Murray's Run.
Yeah.
So just over on the other side of the snow fence to the left.
Well, very close to that snow fence. If you could ski down parallel to Murray's Run, and down through the woods. We made a little trail through the woods there that ended up down by the deck. But if you went very far to the left of that snow fence, you got down into the hollow and you had to come back up again.
Okay.
But what those trees are, I'm not really sure. It looks to me almost as though it's a shadow of a tree that was right off, to the left of the picture.
Yeah, this is a shadow right here.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. So you're thinking there was actually a little trail maybe right through here that went back to Murray's Run?
Yeah. So if you went down, walked, with your right hand on the snow fence down there, you'd gone down. It was almost a glade. It was it was really hard to ski on. I don't think I ever really groomed it, although I might have, but I know we didn't make snow on it. But that's right where the toboggan is. Between that trail and Murray's Run is where the toboggan is.
Oh, okay. Yes, gotcha.
The
down in here somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that's now this is a nice picture. The other thing I noticed about this was lots of snow.
Well, lots of snow in the lee of the snow fences, but you look at the bare spots where there's no snow fence, that was our problem.
Yeah.
Without those snow fences, there would have been no snow at all on the top of the hill.
It's amazing how they hold the snow. They really do a
Well, they
fantastic.
slow the wind down, and the wind, it doesn't carry the snow as well when the wind is turbulent there and drops a lot of it, went right on through. Like in the foreground there's no snow there.
Yeah.
We couldn't put snow fences everywhere, but we put them as much as we could.
Right.
And then we planted, I mean, we knew after we planted them and, put them there and run that for a couple of years, we had to plant trees. And that was going to take 10 or 15 years before it did much.
Right.
But now it's forest.
All right. Well, let me see what we got next here.
Yeah, just to the right, you can see the glade. Well, not the glade. The glade is missing in that photograph. It only lasted a couple of years, but off to the right there, I guess you could call it a glade. I cleared out some of the trees there, and the hot shots would ski down there between the trees. You had to be really good to get down through that, but it was a glade of sorts.
Okay.
Wow.
So is this the pussycat or the wildcat?
It's straight enough to be the wildcat. The pussycat had quite a kink in it.
Let me.
I'm guessing here. I guess that's the wildcat, but I'm not.
I thought I had them right next to each other. So I do have the other one. So if this is the pussycat, then I do have the wildcat. But this is a really pretty picture too. Obviously, I can see where you drove the bombardier up the trail.
Down. You can't go up that trail in the bombardier.
Oh, you couldn't? Okay, so you must have went down then, because I can see your tracks.
Yeah, and again, that may have been the Thiokol. I should know the tracks better. The only time, well, I may have gone down the top of the wildcat once or twice in the bombardier, but it slid most of the way down that top part of the hill. It's just like an avalanche.
Okay.
That's a nice snow condition. In certain snow conditions, you could drive the bombardier up that far. You could in a certain snow conditions with hard snow, but it just lacked traction. It was too heavy. The machine was way heavier than the Thiokol was.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm thinking that's the wildcat.
Okay. Yeah, that's another really pretty.
It was a heck of a trail. I mean, the good skiers loved it, but of course you had a half a mile of flat stuff to get back to the lift.
Yeah. So when you got down to the bottom here, where did this join up with something, or where did this go?
Yeah, right there is where the pussycat and the caribou join in with the wildcat. All three of them right there where your cursor is.
Okay. So the other trail, the wildcat or whatever, would have been to the right, and then the caribou even further to the right?
No, you were going the wrong way. That's the wildcat.
Yep. Okay.
To the left, to my left, is where the pussycat was.
Over to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now again, that could be the pussycat, and the wildcat is a little bit to the right. They were fairly close together.
Yeah.
But I'd have to see another photo to say for sure.
Okay.
But then the caribou, all three of them joined right at the bottom, and that was a crash site because people would come whipping down the wildcat, as fast as they could go because they wanted to get all the way to the chalet without having to push. And then they'd bump into some poor beginner coming down the caribou, and wham.
Yeah. So this is the caribou down here.
Well, that's the connection of all three.
Yeah. Okay.
And the caribou continues on into the distance. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
So it was the caribou from there on, I guess. I mean, we didn't name every section.
Right. Okay. Yeah. For some reason, I'm after you and I standing at the top there, I think the pussycat went off to the left.
Yeah.
And round, and then this was the wildcat coming down.
Yeah. There was nothing to the right. Later on, that was where the T-bar was.
Gotcha.
A lot of those trees got cut to put in that last T-bar.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very nice picture.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad somebody took them. I guess I took them probably.
Yeah, that's my guess, especially since I see the tracks.
Yeah.
My guess is you either came up or went down and stopped and took a picture.
Well, I did enjoy doing that. It was, it was one of the perks.
Yeah,
The resident photographer,
right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you took the pictures.
lately famous. That was,
There's your ski run.
I guess that's Murray's Run, all right.
Yeah.
Uh,
The last picture I had, it was inverted because it had to, instead of turning right, it was turning left.
yeah, well, right.
So this is a correct
That's
orientation.
more or less where the deck was down there.
Yep. Yep.
And in watching it today, I thought, I mean, I commented something about how, things were, to me at this time when we were there this summer, steeper than I had thought they were, but the slope has not changed. It's just that my memory has faded. But what the heck, I was in a machine all the time, and that was a nice little section to ski. That was the best spot on the property for an intermediate skier, right there.
Yeah. No, I think it's really hard with pictures and even with the videos that we shot to get a true appreciation of the angle or the slope or how
Well, the
steep
slope, yeah.
a trail is. So,
Well, I mean, that was our business, or at least, we got into the consulting business just because we had our own ski hill and we had designed the darn thing through the back door, you could say. But I knew pretty well the degree of slope by looking at it. It was going to be, suitable for intermediates or experts or beginners or whatever, and all the in-between gradations. So I was quite used to walking around various ski hills and saying, or in my head, oh, this would be good for this and that would be a good trail. It was great fun.
Yeah. Was there a trail that, because I'm just trying to remember that video clip that you and I shot of finding the deck. So we were up over here and kind of walked.
That's where that trail lately came in. Like this would been during private club era, which would be after, let's say, 1970. I don't know the exact dates, but that's where the bulldozing was done that I referred to in that clip. Cut a bunch of trees. I remember had a fire up on that ridge to the right to burn all the trees. And actually it got away and created a bit of a leaf fire. There weren't any real forest fires in that area. Anyway, that's where you could go up and then down the Wildcat. So everybody would complain, oh, you have to go up that hill to get to the Wildcat. I want to go down Murray's Run and coast up and over and down the Wildcat. So we built that run and, had to put a culvert under that little rivulet that goes through there. So that's not in that photo. That's I don't think there was a name for that. But again, it got rendered redundant when that T-bar was put in late. I don't know when it was put in, quite late in the whole history.
Right. So on the other side of this ridge back, that would have been the caribou and a pussycat and a wildcat all over.
Yeah, just over the ridge and down a steep slope.
Okay. Was this the actual ridge line that third T-bar
that's
came
it.
up?
You can see it all the way across that photo.
Okay.
It
Gotcha.
was a nice walk, but it was not really ever destined to be a ski trail.
Okay.
Or not a downhill trail. It might have been a cross-country trail, but that never happened.
Yeah, because I remember when we took that video, we were walking down and basically came down over here.
Yeah.
And we're down in this opening, and then that's kind of when we started discovering. I remember you told me about the hydrant.
Yeah.
Saw that, and then we found the deck, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I made snow from that hydrant, but I remember hauling hoses from the hydrant above that towards the T-bar, down through the woods, well, 3 or 4 hoses in a row just to get at that part of Murray's Run, because we wanted to be able to make snow all the way along Murray's Run. And it was hard to do the way it was originally set up.
Okay. So that was essentially the goal, was be able to make snow on Murray's Run.
Well, that was the only trail that was reliable moneymaker, even though it had its own problems. But it was the breadbasket of the ski hill was Murray's Run.
Okay.
Nothing to do with the name, but it was the best trail to ski on.
Yeah. All right, let's see what we got next here.
Nice pictures.
Oh, this picture right here, I think, is awesome. When I saw this, I was like, I couldn't wait for you to talk to me about this picture.
Well, the gravel pit in the foreground sticks out. you know,
So are you talking about down here?
yeah, I'll tell you that story in a minute.
Okay.
That's not on our property.
Okay, well, let's start off with trying to figure out the property. So this is obviously, here's the parking lot.
Yep.
Down here, and this would be the fifth line, or yeah, the fifth line road coming up.
Yep.
This would be
Yep.
the top of the hill.
Yep.
And I thought I remember this fence line up here is basically as it comes down was the end of the property. Like, well, actually,
No, that's not on our property. That's on, we call it the Dutchman, Mr. Minetti. That's on his farm.
okay. So how far down, I guess if we're going to go like left to right, where was the property line this way, left to right?
Oh, right about where you are.
Okay.
Yeah, to the left is that long field that got narrow and then wider. That was all on our place, but just at this edge of that clearing is where the fence line was.
Okay.
It went up that little ridge that went over to the chalet and then down, included the knob and the bowl, which is towards us from the knob.
All right. Well, so here's the knob. So when you
Yeah.
refer to the bowl, where's that at?
Well, just come towards the front of the photograph. Yeah. That side of the knob was all poplar trees and they didn't shade the ground and the snow would melt earlier. That faced basically south. But down there, that's the bowl, which is this magical little place. That's where the oak tree is, just off to the left there.
Okay.
But that's the bowl. It's that's where the cows had to go to drink because it was the only reliable year-round spring-fed little mud hole where they drink. Right there.
Okay. Yeah, obviously they must have clear cut all these because when, I mean,
Well, no, that whole knob, all three sides of it, it was like a triangular pyramid. That side was just a difference in the type of trees. Now they would have logged everything, every inch of the place years before.
okay.
But that side, I don't know whether it was because of the sun or just what, but that was all poplar. And look to the left, that's the hills facing north, a lot more sun and a different tree species.
Yeah.
It's quite dramatic in that picture. And the fence ran right from your cursor, the fence between the two lots, you know, lot 10 to the left, lot 9 to the right, went right down that hill.
Okay. Like this way?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember, do you remember over by the fifth line, we saw a fence
Yeah,
line?
you traced the line. The fence went right through there.
Okay. All right.
Up, down, up, down, up, down, and right to the top of that hill. How they made that fence, I don't know, but it must have been hard work.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay. So that was the two parcels of land, the lower half and the upper half.
Yep.
Basically straight. Okay. And then you were saying it came over to about right here somewhere, and that's
Yeah, and then it joined, like the bowl was entirely, well, 95% on our property, and the rest was on what's now Hockley Valley Ecology Retreat Center. The spring that was on our place joined up with another spring that came out of that gravel pit and went through the Hockley Valley Ecology Retreat Center. Nice little stream year round, not huge, but you know, a couple of springs fed it. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in talking to the people that run that place sometime.
so if I continue up to the right here, this is basically the property line just keeps going up,
Yep,
and then
keep going. Yeah, and then
somewhere in
a
here.
little farther, just to where the trees start, and then straight across to that
Okay.
set of ridges. You can, the dramatic, that photograph got light really well because you see how it's flat at the top, really flat.
Yeah, that's super flat.
That was Isaac's, bread and butter farm field. He owned the rest of it down the hill or down to halfway down.
Yeah.
But it was really hard to get at with a horse and wagon. It was never really a cultivated field, I don't think. Although with horses, he might have been able to go up and down to get that, but it wasn't great farmland either.
You have any idea what year this is?
Well, it'd be in the early 60s, but I couldn't say what year exactly.
Okay.
Now, maybe when we get around to doing trail maps, I was thinking about your request for trail maps, and I'd be happy to sit and make them, but I don't have one image from directly above, although the there may be a source where you can get them. I remember about that time, I used to go to Ottawa, get through Karen's connections, get air photos of the area and read them with these stereoscopes. You
Yeah.
can see the depth, the relief. They're quite amazing, but there probably are photographs that would be pretty much overhead that I don't have any of, but I mean, that's pretty close. But I can mark out the trails, if people want them, I can do that, but it's a kind of a slow process.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna get off topic here just a little
Yeah.
bit, but let's talk about and we'll get back to the pertinent topic. But the one thing that I loved about this picture, and you and I have talked about this before, is the location of other ski hills. So was
yeah,
this,
you started out there at Kate's Peak. We go
Okay.
back to the top. That's Kate's Peak, way in the
Oh,
top. That's
okay.
Kate's Peak.
okay? Now
that-
look,
Yeah.
we skied down this way, right? To down here and up.
Well, that's somebody else's property. That's
Well,
part of,
Yeah. No, I mean,
Well-
that ski resort, basically the lift went right up here to the top.
well, only the last one that Cedar Highlands ever put in. Otherwise, they were all in that little bowl to the right of that.
Okay, down in here.
Yeah.
Okay. But at one point, wasn't there a ski lift that came, a ski resort over this
Yeah,
way
but
or?
not to the top.
Okay,
Keep going to the right. And Doug Frid, he fell out with the Cedar Highlands group. He was a hard guy to get along with, and his dad had money, so he went away, and his dad bought the other side of the hill, but he didn't get to the property. Did not go to the top. It's kind of the same story as happened at Hockley Hills with Alex Pearson and the Cedar Springs or the Twin Hearts, pardon me, Hockley Ski Hill. The properties weren't meant to just fit the ski hill people. So Doug never owned the top of the hill, and he never had a lift that went to the top of the hill. But many years later, Cedar Highlands did. It was probably a mistake, but again, the members of the private clubs, and it was a private club at this time, they were driving for more steep stuff, and more chairlifts, no T-bars, more chairlifts. So that drove that whole scene. It's a whole story in itself, really, but that's
okay.
Kate's Peak.
So at no time then, did Doug have a lift that went to the top?
No,
of Kate's
I
Peak?
remember racing from the very top of that hill. We used to have races between the various little ski clubs, and I raced down that hill, down through Cedar Highlands property, and then off onto Doug's property and down to the chalet. They were just fun races, but I do remember downhill races. And there had been some way before ski lifts down that slope straight towards the front of the photograph with just, a few crazy skiers before, long before, maybe even before the rope tow. I don't know that history very well.
Okay,
Cedar Highlands or Cedar Spring may have some records. It'd be interesting to talk to some of the really old guys from there, but they're probably all dead.
yeah. Okay, so there were some ski lifts up in this general area.
Yeah,
Cedar
to the
Spring.
right,
Yep.
from that little valley right up there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
in that little bit of bush.
And
That was,
then, go ahead.
well, that little valley, another picture would help, but they had a rope tow originally, then a T-bar, and then we got another T-bar used from way up near North Bay. I moved it down to Orangeville, took it down, moved it. I didn't put it up again, but I did help. So they had two T-bars in that little valley, and then eventually they got this used Pama triple chair and they put it down Kate's Peak. Probably a mistake, but it was done.
Now, where did that triple chair run from?
Right
Where to
from
where?
where your cursor is, right to the top of Kate's Peak, right up there.
Okay,
Right along the boundary between the two properties. They
Okay.
couldn't get Doug Frid to give them an inch, and they wouldn't give an inch to Doug. It was a crazy turf war that went on, but silly humans do that.
yeah. Yeah, that would have been a pretty awesome ski run starting here at the top of
Well,
Kate's
but
Peak.
it was down. Well, down that way was nice. I mean, it's really a shame that Doug did not get the top of the hill because it would have been great.
Yeah,
Not so high, not so steep at the bottom, but I mean, as it happened, it was a passable, non-expert ski area for years. And I guess he made some money at it, but he really didn't have to make money because it was subsidized by his father.
okay.
At least that's my guess. And
All right. So the other thing was, so obviously as we move down the picture, then there's Valley Shush. And then was there some type of rope tow or something down here?
Yes, on the, wait a minute. So
Or is
the field there, yeah, you're right. Our field ended, it was there at the chalet, and then it got very narrow where your cursor is.
Yep.
It got wide for a while, and then the fence. So if you follow that fence up, the far side of that clearing, that would be the boundary between Valley Shush and what was called Hockley something or other. They put a little palmolive, they used palmolive up that hill. I think they may have started with a rope tow, but I know there was a palmolive up there. Not the greatest ski hill, but everybody was trying to, you know, make ski resorts at the time. I only think it was there for a couple of years. I do remember watching the bars go up. When you got off the lift, you had to go through the returning bars because the lift was going, you know, the wrong direction. It was really, really zany, the thing they had. I could describe it, but maybe later.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when I saw this, this picture reminded me of you and I discussing where other ski resorts were. So
yeah, that would be the Hockley. There's a bunch of teachers who bought that property, and they all ended up having their own little, well, two separate little ski properties.
So what were you gonna tell me about the gravel pit?
Well, when we originally went there, the Hockley Road was a gravel road, and there was an organization called the Hockley Valley Improvement Association that was trying to get hydro and an improved road. And when I don't know exactly the dates, but about the time we started, I guess it would be 1961 likely, they built the road, but they took a lot of gravel off that property. They made a deal with the guy that owned it to dig like a really big gravel pit right there and just go down the little valley, a little creek, all the way down to the Hockley Road. And then they filled the section, you know, to the west of our place was quite wet. So they took truckload after truckload after truckload. I think that would have been maybe even the summer of 61, but if not 62, down that little valley to gravel, you know, to fill the road. It didn't matter for fill if it was terrific gravel. So it was mixed gravel, not, you know, not industrial grade, but good enough for fill.
Okay.
I remember being in that pit later and marveling at what a mess it was. I mean, they just left it like a mine. You didn't do any rehabilitation at all at that time. You didn't have to.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, this picture here just got a lot of detail when you stop and really just start looking at different sections.
Well, that's the Pussycat and the Wildcat you had just where your cursor was. That's the Wildcat right there.
Okay.
No, below, towards the front of the picture, down. That's the Wildcat, or that's the ridge.
Okay.
Just beyond the Caribou. Caribou is in a little valley. You can't see it there, but it's in between. But I think we're looking at, to your right of your cursor, Wildcat, a little more. That's probably Wildcat and the Pussycat right there, right below, towards the front.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
All right. And these are the trees that you planted up
That's
here.
right at the top of the last T-bar. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where Heather's tree is.
And then that reminds me of something else. So when you were talking about at one point dreaming about a potential another ski lift, and that was
down into the bowl from where the top of that T-bar was.
Okay, so it would have been basically starting down here somewhere and running up.
Well, not quite that far. Whoa, let's stop about a little farther. Yeah, we always had to go from the highest point to the lowest point to figure out, you know, what makes sense for a lift. And you could have put a T-bar in there, but remember the literature we read about the private club people trying to talk people into buying memberships, and you know, they were saying, oh, there's all this terrain that's really skiable terrain and it's wonderful terrain. So I would have probably been trying really hard to convince myself or them that would have been the expansion terrain. And it might have been if there'd been money coming around to do it. But it was kind of a nice hill from the top of that last T-bar. The vertical would have been maybe 200 feet, but
Okay.
nice slope.
But it essentially would have ran up to almost where that other T-bar
So the tops would have been identical
Okay, all
or
right,
very close, very close.
Yeah,
I mean, you
gotcha.
could have had both lifts operating and it would have functioned.
okay,
And that was my job to figure that kind of stuff out.
gotcha. So people could have came up on either T-bar and basically skied all that terrain up.
Yeah,
up
so
there.
if they went down into the bowl, they'd have to get back up somehow to get down the Caribou
Right, okay,
or walk. They could have walked up that little valley to where the bottom of the cable tow was and then down the Caribou. It's a
right,
nice little walk, but it's uphill.
yeah, okay,
The cow path was on that little road. I remember going down there, following the cow path into the bowl because it was well trod. Because there were cows every day up and down that trail to the spring. The only water on the property that they could count on.
okay, that's interesting. All right, let's see what else we got here. That picture's a little bit blurry, but it looks like the
Yeah.
picture of the farm, the Smith's
Yeah.
barn.
Yep.
So,
Well, yeah, it is. This is
all right, this is you and I were looking at this picture the last time and it was inverted. It was flipped the opposite way.
yeah.
So this is oriented correctly.
Yep.
And this is another fantastic picture. You can really see a lot of trails in this picture.
Yeah. I wonder if the new the second T-bar, the relocated T-bar is in that. I guess it is because the fifth line had to dodge around that ridge where mom and dad were going to build their house and never did. That wide open space there, that was the main trail from this, the relocated homemade T-bar.
Yeah.
Yep, that was it. It's nice spot, that little slope.
Yep. When we were up there walking around, do you remember, I'm just wondering where my cursor is here. We were standing up here and it looked like you could see where a four-wheeler had been.
Yep, that's the spot. And that was the steep trail.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think many people used it, but we did make it. It was very steep.
Yeah, it was.
For a few yards, and then it was not much.
Yep. And then we were standing up here at the top of the lift line, and this is a really steep piece of terrain. I was surprised how steep that lift line was.
Yes. Yeah.
And like we were talking about, you get off the lift and come down and ski here, which was nice.
Yeah.
Or you could go back. Could you get over to the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that enabled people to get to the chalet from the top of the hill, even if that other T-bar was not running.
Gotcha.
But they could go past it. They didn't have to go between the bars as they had done earlier in the first iteration.
Right.
Yeah, in retrospect, that first T-bar was probably hasty, but we wanted people to see something alive.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what happened to my picture here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with my Zoom thing here. Usually we didn't have a time limit, and for some reason I'm seeing a time limit. So we'll see what happens here. It's telling me I got 3 minutes left. So
yeah.
But anyway, no, when I was looking at this and talking to you about a trail map and trail names, it's like there's a lot. You can see a lot of trails on here.
Yeah, I do remember making trail maps in the past, but I don't believe I have one now.
Yeah.
And due to those photographs, I may even have tried to make one based on the photographs, but I certainly don't have it in my hands.
Yeah.
That's a nice picture.
Yeah, because this would have been the knob and the racing hill over here on the right.
Yep.
And then that would have came down and joined the Caribou.
Well, no, it really joined down where the boneyard was.
Well, yeah, but I mean, eventually, wasn't this the Caribou that came down to
That's the Caribou, but the downhill trail came down the ridge and then made a sharp left down. No.
Oh.
Stop there. Go down through somewhere in there.
Oh, okay.
That trail was not built when that photograph was taken.
Oh, I got you. Okay. And then would have been like the Pussycat and the Wildcat over here?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe not. The Pussycat, I think, is not visible. The one you can see there, I think, is the Wildcat, and the other little white blotch, I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Just the difference in the tree cover.
And then obviously this is Murray's Run over here.
Murray's Run is pretty clear there.
Yep. And what has been the Wendigo coming in?
Yes, and that other little white spot below that, again, it was probably just a difference in the tree cover.
Okay,
Well, I mean, that might have been the Wendigo there. Ooh, that would be the Wendigo right there, and that clearing is just where there was, I'm gonna call it a glade, like above the deck.
okay.
But it's not, it never was a real trail.
Yeah. I'm assuming this is a lift line coming up here.
Yeah, yep.
Yep. And then like we were talking about, the fifth line trail would have been over here.
Yeah.
And then down, I'm assuming you could kind of see maybe where you came down, and that's where
Well,
the boat-
later on, originally it went all the way to the, where the road turned. You could basically hardly call it a trail. It was a real slog in certain weather, because you couldn't coast all the way to the top of the hill. There was this long, almost flat stretch. But, most days you could get there, but you had to skate or push or whatever. It was not a great trail.
Right. Okay.
There really weren't very many great trails.
Yeah. Well, I thought, this part over by the racing, I always thought those were really neat trails, especially since how narrow that they seem to be. I thought, in today's ski resorts, it just seemed like it was really cool, the different trails, the way they were cut out through the trees.
Yeah, and at that time, insurance considerations weren't what they were later. And you had, you could have a narrow trail and